If an equation cannot be factored, one way you could solve the quadratic equation is you could use the quadratic formula. Here's the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Now where the a, b, and c come from are our standard form of the equation. Our standard form of the equation is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So the values for a, b, and c come out of the coefficients of the equations. A is the one in front of the x squared, b is the one in front of the x, and c is the constant on its own. So our first example, I'm going to rewrite the quadratic formula here. So we've got it. We've got x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. So our first step is to look at our example and figure out what a, b, and c are. Now you can see the example. If we were going to factor, we would be looking for something that multiplies to give us 1 and adds to give us 6. Since there's no such number, we're going to have to come up with another way to factor it. So if we look here, our a value in this case, since there's no number in front, is going to be 1. Our b value is going to be 6. And our c value is going to be 1. So we need to substitute this into our equation. We get x equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 1 all over 2 divided by 1. So now it's just a matter of simplifying our expression. We've got negative 6 plus or minus 36 minus 4 all divided by 2, which is equal to negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 32 all divided by 2. And if we take the square root of 32, we get negative 6 plus or minus 5.6569 all over 2. Our final step to find our two solutions is to add the 5.569 or subtract the 5.569. So our first answer is going to be negative 6 plus 5.6569 all divided by 2, which is going to give us negative 0.17. To get the second solution, we just do the minus version of this. Negative 6 minus 5.6569 all divided by 2, which is going to give us negative 5.83. So we have two solutions here. One of the solutions is going to be going through the x-axis at negative 0.17, and one of our solutions is at negative 5.83. One thing you may be asked to do with quadratic formula questions is you may ask to be given the exact answer. So if I'm asked to give an exact answer, that means I don't want a decimal approximation. So using the quadratic formula, we've got x equals negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Now from this equation, we know that a equals 3, b equals negative 8, and c equals 3. So I can substitute that into my formula. We've got negative negative 8 plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared minus 4 times 3 times 3 all over 2 times 3. Now I'm going to simplify this. Negative negative 8, double negatives, is going to give me positive 8. Negative 8 squared is going to give me positive 64. You shouldn't get a negative term in this first squared term. Anytime you square a negative, you're going to get a positive value. Multiply these together, 4 times 3 is going to be 36. And I'm going to divide all of that over 6. Simplifying just a little bit more, and I get plus or minus the square root of 32 all over 6. If I'm asked to give the exact answer, I don't want a decimal approximation of 32. I'm going to break my 32 down into 16 times 2, which is going to reduce nicely to 4 root 2. Because I know that the root of 32 is the exact same as 4 root 2, I can substitute that in. So plus or minus 4 root 2 over 6. And then my final step is just simplifying all of my numbers in front. You can't simplify anything in the radical, but you can simplify all the whole numbers. So as long as I can divide something by all of these, I can simplify it. And since I can divide 2, I'm going to go 4 plus or minus 2 root 2 all over 3. And that's going to be my final answer. That's the exact value. I could be more specific if I wanted to and say it's 4 plus 2 root 2 over 3, or 4 minus 2 root 2 over 3. But that's not necessary as it's implied by the plus or minus. Here's one more example just to show you something else that could happen. Our formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So in this case, of course, our a is equal to negative 2, our b is equal to 7, and our c is equal to negative 9. Substituting in, I'm going to have negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4 times negative 2 times negative 9 all over 2 times negative 2. But when I simplify it, I get negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus 72 over negative 4, which reduces to negative 7 plus or minus the square root of negative 23 all over negative 4. Now our big problem here is that we're trying to take the square root of a negative number. And we can't take the square root of a negative number. If you tried it on your calculator, you would get an error message. So because we can't take the square root of a negative number, our solution to this equation is that there is no solution. And if I graph this, you would see that the graph does not go through the x-axis. It'll go up to the x-axis and come back down, but it doesn't cross through the x-axis. So as a result, there is no solution to a question if you wind up with a negative underneath your square root.